The first knock wasn't polite, it was the kind that rattles the hinges. I was on my back deck, sipping coffee and enjoying the morning, when I saw her, Karen, HOA president, power walker-in-chief, the unofficial mayor of this cul-de-sac. She stood at the edge of my yard with a clipboard under one arm, tapping her foot like she was already late for another meeting about lawn height compliance. Behind her, I could see two of her HOA buddies holding measuring tapes and clipboards like they were preparing for an audit. "Morning," I said, staying in my chair. She didn't bother with small talk. "We need your pool for the HOA summer social," she announced. Her voice as sharp as the sun glare bouncing off her rhinestone sunglasses. I blinked at her. "You need my pool?" "Yes," she replied flatly. "The community pool is closed for repairs, and as HOA president, I'm authorizing the event to be relocated here. You'll need to have it cleaned, stocked with floaties, and ready by Saturday." I stared at her, waiting for a grin or some sign that this was a joke. There was none. "Karen, no," I said, standing up. "This is my private property. My pool isn't for community events." Her lips tightened into a thin, pale line. "The HOA has the right to requisition amenities in the interest of community engagement." I laughed once, sharply. "Not this HOA, not this property. And not this pool." Her eyes flashed, and she turned on her heel without another word. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 hours later, I was skimming leaves out of the deep end when I heard sirens. I walked to the front yard just in time to see 2 squad cars roll up. And who should be standing smugly at the end of my driveway? Karen, arms crossed, smirking like a cat about to get cream. "I've reported you for obstructing HOA directives and creating unsafe conditions," she told the officers. "There's standing water back there without safety signage. It's a liability." I didn't argue. I just leaned casually on the gate post as the lead officer stepped out of his car. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and his aviators reflected Karen's triumphant expression perfectly. "Morning, ma'am," he said. Then he looked past her and grinned. "Hey, cousin." Karen's head whipped around so fast I thought she'd get whiplash. "Cousin?" she repeated, confusion flashing across her face. "Yep," I said. "Meet Sheriff Dan Roberts. My cousin, my best man, and the guy who's about to explain to you why you're about to have a very bad day." Dan's smile disappeared as he turned back to her. "We got a call about a code violation, but here's the problem: there's no code here for you to enforce. This property isn't under HOA jurisdiction for amenities. It's private, it's compliant, and your claim of unsafe conditions is unfounded. In fact, making false reports to law enforcement is a crime in this county." Her face went from red to pale in seconds. "If this was just a misunderstanding," Dan cut her off, his voice cool. "No, ma'am, it wasn't. It was harassment, and I'm filing a report to document it." Neighbors had started gathering at the edges of their lawns, drawn by the sirens. Phones were out recording. I could see the headlines already. HOA president gets schooled by sheriff in driveway showdown. But I wasn't done. While Dan took her statement, I went inside and pulled out the folder I'd been quietly building since I moved in, a thick stack of notices, fines, and emails from Karen, all designed to push her control beyond the HOA's actual authority. Dan's eyebrows went up when he saw it. "Cousin," he said, "you've been holding out on me." Karen's smugness was gone now, replaced by visible discomfort as she realized this wasn't just about the pool anymore. And the best part? I still hadn't played my trump card, the twist that was going to end her little reign for good. Dan didn't even wait until we were off my property to get the ball rolling. He called the county legal office right there in front of her, relaying the details about her false police report. "Yes, she's on scene. Yes, I've got prior evidence of harassment. And yes, I'd like a county investigator to follow up." Karen's mouth twitched like she wanted to interrupt, but every time she shifted her weight forward, the sea of neighbors with their phones recording seemed to push her back. Her posture was no longer commanding, it was defensive. She kept glancing at the crowd like she was trying to find one friendly face, but none were there. When Dan hung up, he gave me a quick nod. "Cousin, you mind if we take a little walk over to the clubhouse?" That was my cue. I walked into my garage, pulled out my binder, and tucked it under my arm. Inside were copies of every questionable fine Karen had issued since I moved in, half of which were for infractions that didn't even exist in the bylaws. And here's where my trump card came in. Last month, I'd had a quiet conversation with one of the HOA's own board members, Sandra, who'd grown tired of Karen's power trips. Sandra had slipped me internal HOA meeting minutes that showed Karen had been bypassing board votes and issuing fines without approval, funneling collected fees into a private account labeled President's Discretionary Fund. When we arrived at the clubhouse, Sandra was already there. She tipped off a few more board members, who sat waiting at the long conference table, their arms folded and expressions grim. "Karen," Sandra began, "we've received a complaint from the county sheriff about harassment and misuse of HOA authority. This isn't the first, and it's time we address it." Karen tried to take control of the room like she always did, snapping open her binder of bylaws, but Dan stepped in. "Before you say another word, understand this is now an official law enforcement matter. Anything you say here can be subpoenaed, so choose your words carefully." The color drained from her face. "You can't threaten me." "No one's threatening you," I said calmly, laying my binder on the table. "We're just here with facts." One by one, I slid out the notices, the photos of my yard in perfect compliance, the timestamps proving her claims were fabricated. Then I dropped the meeting minutes in front of her. "These show you've been issuing fines without board approval. That's not just against your own bylaws, it's embezzlement." Gasps rippled through the room. One of the board members leaned back and muttered, "I knew it." Karen's hands fluttered over the papers like she could somehow erase them by touch. "This is a misunderstanding. Those were emergency funds. Emergency funds don't get spent on spa retreats and steakhouse dinners." Sandra shot back, her voice cold. Dan slid his own report onto the pile. "This is going to the county prosecutor. But if you want to make it easier on yourself, I'd suggest you resign right now and cooperate. Otherwise, the next meeting you attend will be in a courtroom." The silence stretched so long you could hear the ceiling fan hum. Finally, Karen's chair scraped back. She stood, gathered her purse with shaky hands, and without looking at anyone, muttered, "Fine, I resign." Then she stormed out, the door slamming hard enough to rattle the windows. News travels fast in neighborhoods, but this was wildfire. By evening, the resignation email had been posted to the HOA website, and residents were buzzing about the investigation. Within a week, Karen's personal account was frozen pending legal review, and the HOA treasurer announced that over $42,000 in miscellaneous expenses were under audit. The new interim board, led by Sandra, voted to reverse dozens of Karen's bogus fines and refund the money to residents. They also passed a bylaw requiring all future enforcement actions to have documented evidence and majority board approval. As for me, I didn't just get my peace and privacy back, I got something better. My pool stayed mine, untouched by HOA parties. But that summer I hosted my own barbecue and invited the whole neighborhood, including every family Karen had targeted. Kids swam until dusk, adults laughed over grilled ribs, and the only clipboard in sight was the one I used to keep track of burger orders. Every now and then, I see Karen's old house with the "for sale" sign in the yard, sitting empty like a ghost of the control she used to have. And every time, I remember her standing at my gate, certain she was about to win, only to watch her authority crumble in front of the whole community. So, what do you think? Was I right to expose her completely, or should I have let her walk away quietly after the driveway showdown?